Good morning, and welcome to the greatest show on earth. I know we're doing a buffet-style breakfast, so that, engenders a certain amount of movement, but we're going to go ahead and get started, and we will be joined by the mayor of Oakland, and we'll also be joined by artists. And I'm so grateful that we're all here together like this right now. The reason that we're here together, literally here in the big top, together like this, is because, at Grantmakers in the Arts, we really focus on figuring out how to most effectively deploy resources and how to deploy resources through the lens of our values. And so, we are presenting artists this morning as we do throughout the conference, and that's hugely important to us. And also, thanks to your support, we're able to pay the artists that we support. And as you also believe, we believe artists are workers who deserve to get paid. And so as we were planning the conference, when the strike happened at the conference hotel, we said, well, workers are workers who deserve to get paid. So we decided we were going to, in the course of about 2 weeks, redesign the entire conference, top to bottom, as our way of expressing solidarity with workers and as our way of expressing our commitment to deploying resources through the lens of our values. So, as we're doing that, we now have a very new kind of conference experience together. One that's perhaps less convenient, but we hope more inspiring, more exciting, more energizing, and we're so glad that you've all been so supportive of this process. So thank you so much. I want to also acknowledge that we are on the land of the Ohlone people, and they didn't invite us, so we're grateful to be here. And I also want to acknowledge the conference planning committee who has made this all happen. Shelley Trott from the Kenneth Rainin Foundation, Roberto Bedoya from the City of Oakland, Tom DeCaney from San Francisco Arts Commission, Emiko Ono from the William and Flora Hewlett Foundation, Francis Phillips from the Walter and Elise Haas Fund, Ted Russell from the Kenneth Rainin Foundation. I also want to thank our conference planning consultant, Linda Mickelson, and I want to give an especially big thank you to our Deputy Director, Nadia Alokta. Nadia, thank you. As we went through this process of deciding to redesign the conference, we did this obviously with our board of directors led by the charismatic and brilliant Angelique Power, president of the Field Foundation of Illinois. And, I love all of my board members equally, but at this moment, Ken Grossinger, who is the founding chair of the Cross Currents Foundation, who comes to philanthropy out of labor strategizing, who actually comes out of the AFL and CIO and other places, was really instrumental in his strategic integrity and also his moral integrity. And I'm just really grateful, Ken. Thank you. Yeah. And so, let us begin. I would like to thank and welcome Shelley Trott from the Kenneth Rainin Foundation. Shelley?
Good morning. Good morning. All right, much better. It's 8 o'clock. It's very early on a Monday. But thank goodness we're in a circus tent, right? It's amazing. So I just want to take another moment to again acknowledge, I did this last night, but the GIA staff and volunteers. They have been amazing throughout the planning process, but I said this last night, I'll say it again, they have been simply heroic these last couple of weeks. So when you see them, thank them. They have been amazing. Thank you, GIA. So now that I have you all captive for a moment, you're going to have to endure a little bit of Oakland pride. So I don't know if you can see from where you're seated, but I'm wearing oak tree earrings. I have my Oaklandish, the town t-shirt, and of course my very special sorry to bother you swag. So I am actually one of the more nerdy Oaklanders. I wear my pride sort of all over the place, so sorry about that. But I wondered how many of you have seen the video that's on the conference website of Sarah O'Neill's spoken word poem to Oakland? How many of you have seen that? If you haven't seen that, please take a look. She wrote a beautiful piece about Oakland culture and performed it, and I think that it captures the spirit of this city. And if you were to listen closely to the video, underneath the poetry and the music, you will hear a heartbeat. And that is what I think of when I think about Oakland culture. I think about that life-sustaining rhythm that nourishes the body and the soul. And Oakland has a huge heart. Oakland is passionate about art. It's passionate about justice and fairness and respect and opportunity for all people. Oaklanders are also not afraid to speak their minds, to speak from their hearts, to tell it like it is, and to take to the streets to protest injustice, whether it's happening here or anywhere across this country, in solidarity with others to hold power to account. It's a beautiful thing. I imagine at times it's a bit hard to govern, Mayor, but it's a beautiful thing. So while we are maybe a little bit inconvenienced, having been displaced by the strike, I am very excited that we will all be able to get out beyond the halls and walls of the hotel and experience the creativity, the complexity, and the heart of this great city. So thank you all for coming. Thank you for your flexibility, for your generosity, for your openness. We think and hope you're going to have a fantastic time. And now it is my honor to introduce the Mayor of Oakland. Mayor Libby Schaaf was born and raised in Oakland, and it shows. You might recall earlier this year she made some headlines for pushing back against the administration about ICE raids. Holding power to account. The mayor has made supporting the arts a central priority of her administration. Just after taking office, in the face of rising real estate costs, she launched a cross-sector task force to identify strategies for keeping artists and arts organizations in Oakland. She prioritized the recruitment of a new cultural affairs manager, making it a more senior leadership role, and hired Roberto Bedoya. And earlier this month, under her and Roberto's leadership, they released a cultural plan which places issues of equity, identity, and belonging at the forefront. And prior to this, while still a city council member, she wrote the city's first public art and private development ordinance to ensure that Oakland artists were benefiting from the new investment coming to the city. So we are delighted to have her here with us today. Please help me welcome Mayor Libby Schaaf.
Oh my God, this is so perfect. Thank you for not being at the Marriott, because if you were, I would not be with you this morning because I'm not crossing strike lines. And I'm so happy that we just happen to have a circus tent available for you. But that's Oakland. I have about 10 minutes, I believe, to speak to you about kind of my personal culture story, what my priorities are, or I should say our priorities are, because I just do whatever Roberto tells me to do, as the city of Oakland. I heard you laughing very loud there. And kind of why partnership with philanthropy is so important. I grew up in this city in a family that really cared about community volunteerism. And I teased my mother that one of my earliest memories was her putting a sandwich board on me. I think I was 4. And she made me go around and ask people to donate money to music in the school's programs. Now, she tells me that that was good training to be a politician. Later, in my late high school years, Oakland created something called Festival at the Lake. And my mom was its very first volunteer coordinator. Now, Festival at the Lake was almost like a religion in my household, because it was a place where we as Oaklanders didn't just acknowledge that we were a diverse community. We actually celebrated it. We celebrated the different music and art and food of different cultures, and we didn't just keep our own cultures to ourselves. We all experienced each other's cultures together. And that is truly the foundation for what Shelley was talking about, which is a scrappy, feisty Oakland pride. Of course, I know every city thinks that no other city has as much pride as they do, but really in Oakland, we do. We do have more pride. And it is all based on this just fierce pride in our diversity. That is what makes us strong as a city. And so, my first job with the city of Oakland was actually in 1989, following the earthquake. I actually went to work for the Cultural Arts Division. And I longed, like so many people, to be an artist, but unfortunately lacked talent. And so in researching what jobs I could possibly do that would keep me involved in the arts, even though I did not have talent, I started working in event production. I actually finally got a paid job on that festival at the lake, and that is how I came to be hired by the Cultural Arts Division in 1989 to do marketing. I went off to law school in Los Angeles just because I wanted to study entertainment law. Again, a culture in the arts for people with no talent. That didn't work out. Long story short, I ended up in local government, but still with this history of understanding that the thing that I loved best about my city, what gave me so much scrappy Oakland pride, was truly grounded in arts and culture. Now, I think it's perfect that we have the sound of jackhammers going on outside of this tent. It speaks to the moment that Oakland is in right now. As you go out this tent, look up, and after you get over admiring the gorgeous giant murals on our buildings, notice the cranes in the air. Our city is going through a moment of tremendous change. We need the arts and culture to help us move through this moment. It is unsettling to us native Oaklanders, and it's unsettling to everyone who is truly troubled by what is going on in our country right now. And trust me, in Oakland, that is everyone. And so it is just a blessing that we were able to attract Roberto Bedoya to come lead our city at the very moment that we needed him the most. I hadn't been in this room for like 30 seconds and someone came up and introduced themselves to me as a Bedoya baby. Are there a few Bedoya babies in the room? Your theme, race, space, and place, is exactly the conversation that is going on in Oakland. You could not have chosen a better place for this conference, strike and circus tent aside. And our recently launched cultural plan, which literally is the first cultural plan we've had in more than 30 years, like ironically, the last one had just been launched when I went to work for cultural arts in 1989. It is just pulsing with these 3 issues. And so I'm so excited that you are here today. And I want to end again with an appeal and just an expression of gratitude to those of you in philanthropy. Roberto is special because he is both a bureaucrat and a poet. Isn't that a combination? Well, in government, we bureaucrats are not typically risk takers. We have got to change that. We have got to take more risks. We have got to change more quickly. We have got to be bold and iterative. And sometimes we cannot do that alone. What I am so grateful for to philanthropy is by using philanthropy, we can test out the high-risk propositions. And after we have proven them to be wildly successful, then we can bring them into the way that government does business. And I'll just give you one fun little example. We went out and raised some private money to do something different with our streets. And so we convinced, I shouldn't say we convinced, they were actually excited about it, the Department of Transportation to allow us to use intersections and actually the roadways as canvases for murals. Why should a mural just be on a wall? It can be on the street. And so we allowed community organizations to apply. Again, we had private funding so that no one would have to come out of pocket, so that a community that did not have disposable cash could bring their vision and have it funded by us to implement. And these were wildly successful. Street murals, I like to call them street tattoos. So that we can express our culture right under our tires as we drive by. And it actually makes us drive more safely as well. That was so successful that now we're going to institute that within the way we do business. Our cultural plan is going to allow us to embed artists deep within the bureaucracy. Our cultural plan is going to allow us to start redefining how we do civic engagement around things like development and planning and construction, led by arts organizations. These are some of the opportunities that we can experience when we partner together. So as the mayor of Oakland, please have a fantastic time exploring our city, soaking in the creative energy, and I hope to end this conference with many partnerships with all of you here today. Thank you so much. And so now I get to turn it over to someone who I think does not need an introduction, someone who is nationally renowned in not just looking at the arts as placemaking, but so much more important for a city like Oakland right now, place-keeping. Someone who understands that equity is the driving force and belonging is our goal. Someone who has gone all around the country for a fabulous career, but has blessed us to come home to his roots, come home to the city where there could not be a better place and time for him, the manager of our cultural programs in the city of Oakland, Roberto Bedoya.
I'm going to have all the artists come up onto this stage. Oh, thank you, Libby. You're just fabulous.